eye patch, peg leg, parrot on the shoulder, a map with an X on it, and a plank over the water. You know exactly what a pirate looks like. Almost none of it is real. Here's what they actually had: a written constitution, an elected leader they could fire, and workers' compensation, 100 years before anyone else. So let's separate the novel from the ship. Start with where the picture came from. Almost all of it traces to one book, Robert Louis Stevenson's Treasure Island, published in 1883. That is more than 150 years after the golden age of piracy had already ended. Long John Silver gave us the peg leg. Stevenson took the parrot from Robinson Crusoe, a book that isn't even about pirates. The accent came later still, from an actor named Robert Newton in a 1950 film. Every pirate you have ever heard is doing an impression of one Englishman. Walking the plank appears in Peter Pan, in Victorian illustrations, and in every film since. It does not appear in the records. Pirates threw people overboard, or marooned them on an island. Nobody built a special plank. Same with buried treasure. Pirates almost never buried anything. They spent it, fast, on shore, on drink and clothes and women. A chest in the ground earns you nothing, and there is no verified pirate treasure map anywhere. That is a plot device, so the costume is fiction. But underneath it, the real thing was stranger than the story. Before a pirate ship sailed, the crew wrote a contract. They were called the Articles. Every man signed them, or made his mark if he couldn't write, and swore an oath on them. Nobody sailed until they agreed. Article 1 of the most famous surviving code reads, "Every man has a vote in affairs of moment." Not the officers, every man. The captain's vote counted exactly the same as the cook's. The captain was elected, and he could be removed the same way. His absolute authority only existed during a chase or a battle. The moment the fighting stopped, he was answerable to the crew again. If he was a coward, or cruel, or simply unlucky, they voted him out. Bartholomew Roberts was forced into piracy against his will. 6 weeks later, his crew elected him captain. He went on to take over 400 ships, more than any other pirate in history. He didn't inherit that job. He was voted into it. And the articles covered what happened if you got hurt. One code set the payment at $800 from the common fund for the loss of a limb, with smaller injuries paid proportionally. Other ships had detailed schedules, so much for a right arm, less for a left, less again for an eye or a finger. Read that again. A formal, written, pre-agreed schedule of financial compensation for workplace injury. That is, workers' compensation insurance. It appeared on pirate ships more than a century before it appeared in any factory or any law. And this wasn't idealism. Merchant sailors were beaten, cheated of their wages, and had no say in anything. Naval discipline was worse. Pirates had all lived under that, and they built the opposite on purpose, because a crew that has voted for its captain doesn't mutiny against him. Now, this is the part most pirate videos leave out, and it matters. They were not heroes. Roberts and his crew landed on an island at night and killed a large part of the male population in revenge for a dead captain. They robbed ships for a living. Many of the men they took were held against their will, and the same code that guaranteed a vote also guaranteed a marooning. Marooning meant death. Both things are true at once. They were violent criminals, and they governed themselves better than the navy that hunted them, better than the merchants who employed them, and in some ways better than the countries they came from. That contradiction is the actual story. It's just harder to sell than a parrot. The eye patch is fiction. The vote was real. Subscribe for more history told the way it actually happened.